All right, we're rolling. Maddie, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here. And I know that so we met briefly before this.
Mhm.
I do a lot of these pre-calls with my guests. And we were talking about what you do in the health and wellness space. And I've had a lot of people in the health and wellness space on the podcast, and so it's a really fun topic always to talk about. I feel like it's one of those industries where you're everything seems to change, and it's very fast moving as far as information. So what tell us exactly like what you do and what you help other people do.
Yeah, so I am a certified health education specialist. So, as a CHES certified person, we are basically practicing the most efficient and effective ways to help people live the most healthy lives. And we focus more on promoting preventative measures rather than, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to diagnose people. I cannot tell
Mm,
them or prescribe them things. But my job is to help people find ways to be proactive about their health. So I graduated last year with my master's in health education and behavior disorder. And for the past few years, I've been doing health coaching. I don't love calling it that. I think it's a very saturated market and it's not my
yeah,
favorite term because I think there's a broad spectrum to health. Like you said, it's constantly changing. Everyone has a different opinion on health and wellness and all.
right,
It's just a saturated market.
right,
So
right, right, right.
I focus more so on intuition and helping people listen to their gut, quite literally, and
Hmm.
healthy habits within their lives through, just listening to yourself. I think that in general, the world is just constantly telling us what we need to be doing. And as a health person, someone who's educated in the field, I see all this stuff on Instagram and I'm like, this is such BS. It's very frustrating. So I basically go in and I work with clients and people on how to just live their healthy lives. And from that, I have done coaching and I'm kind of migrating into branding and website design for health and wellness businesses because I've grown my business. So I kind of know the back end ways of that. So now I want to help other people reach clients and help them help people be healthy. So kind of
Yeah.
all of the things. I'm all over the place.
No, that's a lot of fun. It makes a lot of sense. I like what you said about coaching. I kind of dove into like sales training and things like that. And I
Yeah.
understand where you're frustrated from because it's coaching has almost turned into like this MLM thing where anybody can be a coach. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're doing, just call yourself a coach, like
Yeah.
or a
Literally, that's
consultant.
what it
It's
is.
like
Yeah.
okay, and but I understand because I got I've been in sales for a really long time, over 10 years, and been really successful doing that. And so when I call myself like a sales trainer, people kind of get confused and they're like, "Oh, I need a coach." And I'm like, "Yeah, that word is so confusing because
Yes.
you don't really know what you get when you hire a coach."
1,000%. I think of it all the time as, even in elementary school, we had these coaches and they're teachers and stuff. And now as I'm an adult, I look at these coaches and I'm like, you are not a
Yeah,
trainer. And that's okay. But we just aren't educated on the fact that anyone can call themselves a coach. Anyone can say,
yeah,
anyone can coach anyone on anything. But do you have
right,
the
right.
actual background and evidence that you can help someone succeed in that? So.
Yeah, yeah. I think it does really fall onto people to do their due diligence and then to like help root out, you know, charlatans or somebody who doesn't have your best interest in mind, right? Because it is funny. Yeah, your thought about the coaches in our high schools and middle schools. It reminded me of a joke. Like I do stand up comedy, just like very
Like
like
just for
I'm not.
fun.
Yeah, just for fun. Like I'm not funny, but someone brought up a joke, and I can't remember what it was. It was like we have all of these misconceptions in school, and and that's what happens when when your football coach was the geography teacher or whatever. And I was like, isn't that so true? They were
It's
always
so true.
geography teachers.
And we don't question it. We never once think
Yeah,
about that.
you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's funny though. It's a fun thought. So that's interesting. I like that you talked about also kind of intuitive living. I wanted to dive into that. But let me ask you before we get into like what that is and how people can apply it.
Yeah.
how did you get into where you are right now? So, I mean, obviously you went to school for this, but is this something that you've always wanted to do, or did you stumble upon it?
So, yes and no. I've always wanted to be in the health space. I grew up wanting to be a physical therapist my whole life. And I got to college for health sciences and got to classes, and I was good at it. I enjoyed it. Like the content was whatever to me, but I just felt like I was lacking in my personal life. I wasn't making meaningful connections with people because I was holding back in my life. I felt insecure. I grew up with a family. My family owns and runs a gym, and I'm a part of that now. I teach group fitness classes and love it. But before that, my mom's always been in the health space. She's always been a fitness instructor and has always cared about the new fad diet and losing weight and all of this stuff. And
Mhm.
now she's past that and in a great place in her life. But I grew up watching that. And so I took that with me when I went away for college and came to this point of I can't do it. I can't do life. Like I'm not enjoying anything. So I did some research and I quickly realized that there's a different program, different school, transferred, all that good stuff, and went for health education. Found so much love for it, found ways to apply healthy living to my own life, started listening to myself, stopped ignoring the outside world of all of the
Mhm.
diets, all of the things, and just listened to what my body needed. And I recovered from disordered eating and obsessive exercise and all of the things, and just created a life for myself that was meaningful. And I was making these raw, authentic connections with people and just started living instead of passively letting life pass
It
me by.
happened to you? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so common. It's so easy. And I think we don't even realize so often how quickly we can fall into that passive living. So I started loving it and started doing coaching after I got my bachelor's degree. I started doing coaching while I got my master's, just to kind of, you need a way to live. So I
Yeah,
started
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that once I was educated on it. And then when I graduated with my master's, I continue coaching. I am starting to do public speaking and all of that. And that's when I started realizing my business was doing really well and I wanted to help others have successful businesses. And I don't want to be a business coach, but I want people, I know that there are so many different ways to be healthy and to live healthy lifestyles. And there are other people who can help others accomplish that. I can't help
Mhm.
everyone. So
Yeah.
I decided that I wanted to start. I'm a great writer. I have always loved writing. So I'm great at the marketing, branding, website design. So I started helping other entrepreneurs and business owners in the health and wellness space reach more people online. So it's kind of multifaceted, and people look at me like, what do you do? You're a website designer, you're a coach, you're an everything. But I just like helping people. And
Yeah.
I do coaching because I love it, not because long term I want to do it, but it's not, I want other coaches to also succeed and also share their voice, because everyone has a different story on how they got to their life and where they are. So I find that really important to share with.
Absolutely. I like that you help other coaches. Well, and that's something that you don't find a lot of. There's a lot of egos in the coaching game. There's a lot of egos in just business
Yeah.
ownership in general, right?
Yeah.
For better, you know what I mean? And why it happens, I mean, that's probably a whole podcast by
Yeah.
itself, right?
I could go all
Um,
day on that.
but it's fun that you also that you have your business, but you also help other people because I mean, you've probably noticed this working in a gym, working with clients, like you just don't vibe and you jive with some clients. Like it just doesn't work. Like,
I've
you know,
fired clients before.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, you got to sometimes.
yeah. It's true. I think it's really
And
important but that goes with the intuition part. Like if we're just going out and getting clients just for the money, then we're not really helping them. We're not able to
yeah,
go into it and actually listen to our gut and help them with what they need. So I think it's important to be able to say, maybe I'm not the best fit for you. Here's someone that can actually help you.
yeah, no, and that's perfect. That's a perfect way to run your business. I mean, I've done that and I've gained more long-term clients, you know, because you got to know when I talk about like business and selling, because
Mhm.
a lot of like business owners don't realize how important it is to start selling like what you're doing. Everybody thinks that sales is like the S word, and but it's funny because what I teach is like you have to know when to push and you have to know when to pull, right? Like you have to know when to let people go and when you're really close to a deal, and you just and somebody just needs that little extra
Mhm.
umph, right?
Yeah.
And and that kind of leads into, just being able to be real with people, being able to know like that this might not work, but you'd be a really good fit for this other person, and playing a long game versus playing a really nasty short game. I mean, when you
1000%.
chase money, it never works. So it's,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, it really happens. So when you talk about intuitive health,
Mhm.
and kind of your path, which was really listening to yourself and trying to figure out where you wanted to be,
Yeah.
how do you start to know if what you're feeling, if your intuition is on the right track?
Yeah. So for me personally, it started with intuitive eating, which is very popular way of living,
Yeah,
eating, whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
not dieting.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But it started with that. I was working and recovering from all my, I wouldn't say eating disorders, but very disordered eating. I was definitely borderline needing help. So I started with intuitive eating to just kind of recover my own relationship with food, my own body. I realized I started really loving working out for
Mhm.
myself, not for looks or anything. So I realized I needed to figure out eating, or else I'm never going to get strong in the gym. So I started with that, and then it kind of transformed into me starting to actually love myself and my body for once, which I never
Mhm.
experienced prior. And so then I realized I've really been just living for other people. I've started going to school for physical therapy because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. That's what everyone thought I was meant to do. I was just all the little things in my life I just felt like I was doing for everyone else. So with intuitive living, and I work with my clients on this, I'm going at it from a perspective of what do I actually want? And is that going to hurt me? Is it going to hurt anyone else? If not, how can I reach that goal or that lifestyle? So there are many different ways to approach it. I think it really depends on what people's goals are. I've worked with people that were in my shoes where it was very much about looks and figuring out dieting and the lifestyle and stuff. Then I've worked with people who just they aren't living their fullest life. They aren't meeting the potential that they know they have. So I really work on breaking down a lot of the lies we tell ourselves. We grow up in an oversaturated world of everyone. We see ads all day and we subconsciously take all of that in. So we start really by deconstructing all of the lies that are in our mind from the way that we grew up and the things that we see on TV and the things that we think we're supposed to be. And then from there, start figuring out the pieces that matter. So we talk, and I could go cut me off whenever because I could go on this forever and ever. But there are 8 basic dimensions to wellness. So 8 categories of your lifestyle that are
Mhm.
impacting you. And when we look at all 8 of those, usually people are stronger at something, at a few of them than the others. So we really learn to rank them and figure out what part of those 8 we need to focus in on to live a life that is full of passion and love and all of the things.
Yeah,
So,
so you kind of approach intuitive wellness
mhm,
from a sense of kind of like these eight dimensions
mhm,
of eating, of wellness, excuse me.
mhm,
And then you also approach it based on someone's goals. And okay, so this is funny, right? I like talking about this because when you end up in business conversations, you talk about goals frequently.
right.
So uh you know and I think we're to the point now, thanks to a few really awesome authors, where we've shifted away from like results oriented goals to like habit building goals. But I'm
Yeah.
curious for you and your methods.
Mhm,
Some people don't have like, in my experience, for me personally, like I have overarching goals. Like
uh-huh,
one, I have like, I've always dreamed of getting an MBA, and I had to put it off for a while. And
yeah.
then I was able to go pursue that.
Mhm,
And but like when people are like, well, what's your goal with an MBA? Man, I don't even know what's going to happen by the end of the year. Like my life happens so quickly, right?
right.
So when you talk about long-term goals with people, how do you establish those, or what process do you go through to nail a few down so that you have a place to start?
Yeah, so I love all the things you just said about habit and goals and all the things. I'm into all of the self-help books.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But Brene Brown's like my favorite person in the whole world. So
Yeah,
I'm all
cool.
about
She's great. Yeah, she's absolutely wonderful.
wonderful. But I actually recently read through Atomic Habits, which was really interesting to read because I love the way that he formats things. James Clear, I love his formatting things, but a lot of the things he was saying, I was like, oh my gosh, like I work with people on things, like it matters, because you're right. Like,
Mhm.
what is the goal? And I really work with people and try to explain that we don't necessarily need to work on one specific goal, but who do we want to be and what is the
Mm.
lifestyle we want to live? So if we want to live a lifestyle that is intuitive, that we're listening within, so what is someone that is living that lifestyle? What do they do? How do they make choices every single day? So I think simply it'd be easy to just refer to myself, because that
Mhm.
just makes sense, because I'm not talking to an actual client right now. But I would say, look at me, and I am living a lifestyle of intuitive wellness. So instead of my goal being, I want to get fit at the gym, it's I want to be the type of person that can consistently get to the gym. And I want to be the person who eats well so that I can exercise. And it's finding all of the things in your life that you can work towards so that you can be the person that is going to the gym, not to be the most fit. Like, we don't need to have the highest goals
Yeah.
all of the time. I graduated from high school and was like, I want to get a doctorate. I wanted to be a physical therapist, and that's not even
Yeah.
close to where I am. But if I said I want to be in the health field because I want to help people, I'm still on track to do that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing with my life. So it's shifting the mindset from what is this goal and why do you have it, to what is the lifestyle you want to live and how can we achieve it in all of the dimensions. And your dimensions of wellness are basically just core areas of your life. So like your emotional, your physical, occupational, all of that kind of stuff. So it's just a multifaceted way of thinking. How can I alter everything in my life to make it make sense to who I want to be? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said there, and kind of just really focusing on who you want to be. I told you that I talked with quite a few people in the health and wellness space. One
Mhm.
of the people I was fortunate to have on was Drew Manning, and I don't know if you have heard that name. He's the he's the original he's the OG Fit to Fat to Fit guy.
Okay. Okay.
So like he was on Piers Morgan, Tom Bilyeu, like all of these guys.
Yeah.
Um, and he mentioned a very similar on a very similar strain that you're on, as far as like, healthy looks different for everybody. Goals look different for everybody. And so we really need to dig in and be intuitive about how we're listening to our body and things like that. Cause it's always funny. I talk about health, but I'm like a bigger guy. But and by all like medical standards, I would be like overweight, but it doesn't really feel like that
Right.
because everything else I'm like super healthy. Like the doctors come back and they're really confused, but I'm just like, I'm just hanging, I'm hanging out. I'm just a big guy.
Yeah.
Like I'm Polynesian. And we're just big. You know what I mean?
That-
And there's
But
nothing
that's
wrong
the
with
thing. Like, and this is where I think a lot of people will differ on opinions and stuff, and that's totally okay. But I originally, when I was struggling and had just no idea of what I wanted, like I just wasn't happy in life, I was going to doctors. I've had terrible digestive system my whole life and just allergies and stuff that I never figured out. And every doctor would tell me I'm just overweight. So you're telling someone who's already struggling with
it.
disordered eating, I'm still considered overweight. I teach at a gym, I work out at a gym 6 times a week. Like
Yeah.
I'm by medical definitions, I'm overweight, but I'm not an overweight person. And you are not looking at any background, and you're telling me that my issue is I need to exercise more. When I'm over exercising, under eating, and your solution for me as a doctor right
Yeah.
now, tell me. So, and that's the issue with a lot of things, because there are so many people, like in general, we aren't constantly looking at lifestyle, background, ethnicity. All of that
Mhm.
plays a role into who we are and how we look and how we feel. And
Yeah.
we're going to ebb and flow. We're not always going to be our most fit. We're not always going to be our most healthy, but we can still feel okay and we can still listen to ourselves and all of that. So I like that
Mhm.
you said that, because I think a lot of people in general see a doctor and hear you're overweight or you need to exercise more, and there's no context to that at all.
Yeah, and I think we're getting into a lot of like, I think in today's culture we've hit a lot of like crazy crossroads where we haven't tapped into a lot of empathy, because
Yeah.
I do believe that healthy looks different. for everybody. Like,
1000%.
right, right. And that's just, I mean, that's just pretty common knowledge at
Yeah.
this point, right? There's not a whole lot of arguing with that. But yeah, we've just lost this empathy with people, and we've lost a way to get in touch. And I like what you mentioned at the beginning, and that is, and I had talked about this with another somebody just last week. We were talking about preventative medicine, like being proactive versus being reactive in our. And look, I love doctors. I'm not saying Western medicine isn't it. I've been accused of that
Essential for,
actually.
I'm not like one of those crazy,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I no, no, no.
balance in all things.
I know, and people like will take this podcast. I'm like, we only have 45 minutes or an hour to talk. Like, we don't really
Right.
get a whole lot of time to
Right.
hash out these ideas. But what's always interesting is, I love the medical field and all that is, but it's very reactive. It's very
Mhm.
much like a diagnosis driven. You know, there is a lot of preventative stuff that we can do, and I think if we started focusing more on preventative and healthy living, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like, right? Because it just looks different for everybody. Like, I was talking to somebody. She's a really good friend. She wrote a really good book about how she overcame some of her health things with intuitive eating and things like this, right? And she's like, vegan will save everybody, and I'm like, I don't, have you ever been to Hawaii? Have you ever
Right.
been, have you eaten dinner with Polynesians? Like,
Yeah,
we
that's
eat,
not
that's what we
right.
eat. That's what we eat. And you're never gonna get, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, it's just different things that we do. And for some people, vegan like makes a lot of sense. Vegetarian makes a lot of sense. And for other
Yeah.
people, you don't really need it to be. And then what's the goal, right? Like with all of this stuff, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, right?
Yeah.
So you have everything, right? You got
Mhm.
vegan, vegetarian, you got carnivore, you got intermittent fast, you got all of these things, right? Got all
Yeah.
of this crazy stuff. What's the goal? Why are we coming up with a new fad every 3
Right.
months?
Right. I Good question and all the things because so background, so I part of my allergies ended up being dairy and meat. Very inconvenient
Okay.
because I come from a family that I mean I grew up eating meat. Like I
Sure,
was never
sure,
a thought in my mind.
sure.
And
Yeah.
so after doctors and doctors telling me all the things I needed to do, I was like, I'm just gonna figure it out on my own. So I did, and I eat a plant-based diet. And every single person that asks me about if they should eat a plant-based diet, I tell them they should not do anything that doesn't fit your lifestyle. Because if your goal is to be a vegan and your lifestyle does not permit that, how are you going to be successful in that?
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of anxiety that will follow, I'm sure.
1000%. I realized that I gave up dairy a while ago because I'm just all of my allergies and stuff. And
Mhm.
then I realized I like meat. I'm used to eating it because my family eats it, but I don't crave it constantly. So for me, it wasn't that I've always been a sides person. I've always loved beans. That's not hard for me. But someone who genuinely craves meat, there's a reason why. Your body needs a different type of protein, a different source of iron, all of that thing, all of
Mhm,
those things.
mhm,
So,
mhm.
and that goes to show like really what is your goal? Are you doing this diet because you want to lose 20 pounds? Okay, what's your goal in that? Is it because you want to lose 20 pounds? Is it because you actually have health reasons? Is it, there's so many factors that people don't look into, and every diet is going to solve your problem, but nobody knows what their actual problem is.
Good point.
Like
Yeah,
they don't. I've done
yeah.
it all. I did it all. Intermittent fasting, I did. I have no idea why. And I did it and I passed out because I was overworking and not consuming enough calories.
Right,
So
yeah, yeah.
we really need to look at what your goal is. And I've sat on calls with clients and they hate it. They hate me when I sit there and I will ask the entire call, why? And we have to get down to the sole reason of why we want something. So if we don't know that, we're not going to be motivated to get there.
Yeah,
So
I have a really good friend who, he works specifically with, like, MMA
mhm,
fighters and things like that, and so they'll do a fight camp, and he'll be their dietitian, nutritionist, things like that.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's kind of one of his main focuses. He's like, "Well, what are you already eating?" So, I'm not gonna tell you to start or stop eating things unless it's
No.
like, unless it's like Twinkies at 1 o'clock in the morning, you
Right.
probably shouldn't be doing that, homie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, for his fighters during a fight camp, they probably shouldn't be doing that.
Right. But it's just coming up with
Yeah,
sustainable ways though. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, exactly. He focuses on like, all right, you already eat these 6 or 7 main things. All right, well, let's build out a nutrition plan and an
Yes.
exercise plan that matches.
And that's
You
so
don't have,
important to
yeah.
acknowledge, because it's not, and I tell people all the time, because I teach at a gym and I work in the health space. So people ask me constantly about, people are constantly asking any health person what they do and why they do it, because they think that's the best. And I refuse to give those insights, because it's not about what I'm doing, because that works for me. And my big thing when I would plant-based was I eat ice cream constantly. That's like my favorite source of, like every night, that's my favorite thing. So I didn't just went plant-based. I didn't stop eating ice cream. I just found a dairy-free one. So it's about finding things that can make it sustainable for you, whether it's being vegan, whether it's being vegetarian, whether it's eating meat but cutting out certain fats, no matter what it is, health-wise.
Sure. Or eating like what I ended up doing was I eat meat, but now I try to eat like better, different types of meat.
Like the end of higher quality. Like
yeah, exactly. So like, I mean lots of like free game meat. So like deer and elk and things like that are very like, or instead of going, something that's really interesting is like we stopped going to the store to buy meat a lot, and we went to like the farmers,
like the butchers and stuff, like
who raised it, and it's all fresh and very like ethical and all that stuff.
And it goes with that for anything, not just eating, but fitness. Are we all of a sudden adding in 3 days a week of extreme strength? That is not sustainable. Your body's not because you're not doing anything other than your exercise. No other part of your life is adapting to that thing. So anything in the health field, you have to really make it a lifestyle and figure out who is the person I want to be, rather what is the one goal I want to achieve.
Yeah. And I think I'm just writing that down, by the way.
Yeah, I know you're good.
I take notes. One thing that we've kind of touched on that just has really resonated is, the best plan is the one that's sustainable. And that's kind of where you find intuitive, right? That's kind of where intuition comes in, right? Is what's going to be sustainable. And then I guess having a coach there like yourself to go through and go through certain things that are like, hey, this, I'm not feeling good when I do this or when I eat this. And so we can kind of through the communication with a coach or a professional, right, go into, well, then let's try this and let's try this. Cause that's always what gets me, right. Is like, if you go to a doctor, they're going to prescribe quite a few things until they get it right,
Yeah.
And so I don't know why people are scared to do that with someone else, right? It's like we're just trial and erroring this because everybody's different, right?
1,000%. I had a client that kind of unrelated to eating and stuff, but she was just struggling emotionally. She just lacked confidence. She didn't, nothing crazy. She had a decent life. Like everything was fine. She just wasn't overly confident and absolutely like loving it and fulfilled. Like she just wasn't fulfilled. She didn't feel healthy. She just lacked energy in life. And we dug and kept digging. And a huge part of it was because she hated her job. And it sounds so silly, but we aren't willing to look at the big picture of life. And we're like, oh, if I lost this 10 pounds, so let me try this fad diet. Oh, if I, got this procedure done, everything would change. And that's not how life works. We need to look at everything and see what's sustainable. So now she quit her job, became a teacher, and is loving life. And everything else kind of started shifting, and she's feeling joyful. And now she has a better routine. So she's eating healthier and she is feeling better health-wise. So it's really about figuring out how we can make things sustainable. We don't always need to fall into the next diet or the next health regimen to shift what we need. We need to look at everything in our lives and figure out what changes we can make that are lifelong, because fad diets are literally just that. They are fads. They come, they go. They're not sustainable.
Right. I like that you mentioned looking at the whole picture, because, and I don't want to throw this around because it's a serious word, but addiction does set in when everything isn't right, and food is one of the hardest ones because it's like very natural to us as a species, right? Like we have to eat, and a lot of these things have evolved, like carbs and things like that, right? Where a lot of our primal system is just like, oh, we need a lot of carbs, even though we really don't anymore, right?
Right.
Or whatever. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
really,
whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it is, carbs,
Right.
whatever. I don't care. Um, my whole point behind that is when we aren't looking at the bigger picture, like you said, we can fall into maybe bad eating habits
Yeah.
because we're not happy at a certain place. So we're
Yes.
whatever, right? Maybe looking to fill that connection void in
Yeah.
food, which is legitimate, right?
Yeah. And that's where the 8 dimensions, I feel like 8 dimensions of wellness is such a broad, like people hear that, I'm like, what? But it's looking at the big picture. It's looking at your
Yeah.
job. It's looking at your emotional well-being. It's looking at finances. It's looking at what you're
Oh yeah.
eating, like everything, because we don't realize how big of a role that plays into our overall health. And it does lead to addiction. I grew up with an addict father, and I
Mhm.
saw it in him all the time, and he never wanted to evaluate every part of his life. And you see it all the time though, whether it is food or actual like drug and alcohol or whatever it is. It appears so often because there's so many factors that play into who we are on a daily basis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So switching kind of gears only a little bit, but
Yeah.
you help other business owners
Mhm.
learn these techniques and
Mhm.
grow their business. So what are some of the main things that you focus on when you're helping other small businesses grow their practice in the health
Yeah.
and wellness space?
So I'm sure you know all about, well, sales in general, sales,
Yeah.
and goes along with, marketing and branding and all of that. Doesn't always seem, it's not, your business is not your branding. You can have all the pretty colors and have an awful business that's just does nothing. And you can have a wonderful business that's thriving and have absolutely terrible branding. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like standing out, since the market is so saturated and there are coaches left and right and there are health professionals left and right, it's hard to stand out in the online space. So that was one thing that I really saw pick up in my business when I shifted my branding and my website design and my marketing materials and shifted my sales strategy. I started realizing that I'm reaching more people and people are interested, and a pretty picture, it does catch an eye, and that's gonna help on Instagram. And it's not the whole picture to your business, but it does help you, and it helps you reach more people in the most effective and efficient way. Because I really believe that we all have our own taste on things and we all have something to share. But if people aren't seeing that, then we're not sharing it. We can be saying it, but if no one's hearing it, it's not getting anywhere and it's not helping anyone. So I work with health and wellness businesses mainly on branding and website design, but I also work
Mhm.
with copywriting and marketing and emailing and, really reaching out and getting connected with their clients. Because
Yeah.
I like, who cares what you have to say if no client is seeing it? It doesn't get you
Yeah.
anywhere.
Of
So
course. The only thing you're ever fighting when you start a business is obscurity.
yeah.
Is it no
Yeah.
one knows who you are. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I mean, you hit it on the head with there are brands that sell a lot that, like why would somebody ever buy that? And you got
Right.
bands that look amazing and they're not all that, right? And the only difference between that kind of success and ours is nobody knows who you are, right? So for
1,000%.
whatever however they did it, they made a name for themselves, they got out there,
Yeah.
people started hearing about them. And yeah, I mean, half of the stuff that I buy just for sales stuff
Yeah.
is because I know, like, I know
Yeah.
other people who know them, and I know other people who know other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it also goes so far because yes, there are coaches left and right, but it kind of also goes back to, and this kind of goes back to mindset work of, there's the scarcity. Like we live in such a scarcity mindset of we have to get the next client. We have to do the next big
Oh
thing.
yeah.
We have to, but there's so much money out there and there are so many clients and there are so many people that need your expertise and whatever it is that you do, whether it's health and wellness or whatever industry you're in.
Right,
There are people
right.
who want and need what you have. So just because people don't know you yet, that isn't a reason to just give up.
Absolutely. And you just, well, and I mean, that's going to be the hardest battle. Like once people start to hear who you are, you start to get referrals, you start to get that social proof, like it all comes out. So I'm curious, you got your master's,
Mhm.
and it was all in health, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
where did you learn copywriting? Where did you learn these skills that became useful in all these things?
I just figured it out.
Yeah, yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
I mean, starting a health coaching business, I just started playing around. To be fair, my partner is a graphic designer, so that helps me. He went to school for graphic design, so he
Oh,
started
heck
helping
yeah.
with like logos and branding and stuff. And then I just kind of picked it up on my own.
Yeah.
My parents opened a gym right at the start of COVID, so we had to be extremely scrappy in the way that we were marketing, so that we had paychecks coming in. I don't own the gym. I just kind of help out there,
Yeah.
but I was like, okay, well, we opened up 2 weeks before everything shut down. So we need to figure out how to get across to our community.
Dang.
Yes, literally, we opened the doors. 2 weeks later, we had to close. So,
Whew.
I mean, it was fight or flight. We need to figure
Yeah.
out really creative ways to get people online through virtual classes. No one in the community knows us. We were open for 2 weeks. So we need to figure it out. So I just started getting creative in how to market ourselves online, and on top of marketing my stuff. And I just kind of realized I was kind of good at it. I loved
Yeah.
website design, and it kind of just fell into my lap. And I realized that that's a big issue in a lot of small businesses is we don't have the money to just fork up for a custom website and branding.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah. I mean, because custom website and branding, that's a couple grand
yeah,
at the
easily.
minimum.
So,
Yeah.
yes. So I was like, I love what I do with coaching. I'm going to keep doing it, but I also want other people to reach the people they need to, because I genuinely, in my soul, in my gut, believe in community over competition, and we can help
Yeah.
each other. We can be friendly, even if we're competitors, because
Yeah. It
I can
doesn't matter.
guarantee there are going to be people that I want to refer out because I don't want that client, and they're going to have the same thing.
Yeah. Well,
So
and it's just like people are attracted to that to the people who aren't like in a scarcity mindset, right?
yeah,
Like people are attracted to abundance, and
yeah,
when you're fighting these things, it just doesn't. And I mean, like I don't like I refer people all the time. Like I love networking, so I just refer and make connections because like I don't care. Like
right.
if the tide rises, when the tide rises, we all rise. And so the more we go, the more we go. So I'm curious, what are some of your favorite tools as kind of a freelance web and branding design? What are some of your favorite tools?
Like website tools or mindset tools, because I have them all.
Ooh, both. Start with
Okay.
website and then go to mindset.
Okay, physical actual tools and that's a big thing, is that the
Yeah.
clients I work with, I work with a few clients that are ongoing, and every month I work with people who run businesses, and I fix their websites and do all the little things. But my thing is I also want to teach people how to do it on their own, because
Yeah.
not everyone starting out has the money to pay a subscription every single month for someone to do their website. So
Right.
I use and pretty much only will suggest Showit, the website platform. It's just a website hosting platform to design.
It's called Show It.
Showit,
Okay.
SHOWIT.
Interesting.
It's basically it's. I hate saying drag and drop because that's very much like Wix, and nothing wrong with Wix. I just think Showit.
Yeah.
You can customize things differently, and I think it's a little bit better for people who aren't tech savvy and don't know code.
Okay. So it's a no code web builder.
It's exactly. And you can add
Okay.
code, which I do a lot for clients, but like it's a no code. It's like going on
That's
Canva,
cool.
but a little bit more advanced, basically.
Well, hey, by the way, side note, did you hear that Canva has a website beta?
I heard that, but I haven't looked into it.
I don't think it's like like you use Show It. I love
Okay.
card.co. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it sounds pretty much the same. And by
Yeah.
the way, I would imagine that they all are.
Yeah.
But I was going through a few things and I saw on Canva
Mhm.
that you could but I think it's just one though. I think they just like you can't build multiple. Like if you're an agency, Canva
Okay.
doesn't really
Okay.
work if you're
Yeah,
an agency.
that makes sense.
But I just thought it was funny because man, when I went and played around with that, I was like, that's crispy. That's pretty cool.
That's cool. Canva's getting really creative. They also have
There,
like the online scheduler for and that's another
yeah,
thing that I suggest, because I will design everything in Canva for clients and send it off to them. Then they can customize it, they can schedule it, all that fun stuff.
right.
So
Canva's kind of becoming a really
yeah,
amazing software piece of
it's
software. I mean,
pretty incredible.
I remember I had Canva back in the day when they didn't even have like videos and stuff. It was just like colors and like,
Yeah, like blocks
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. And now,
things.
and now you can get, what I think is really cool is they have like a whole library of B-roll video
Yeah.
and
You can literally make your
pictures.
own, like, GIFs and stuff on Canva now. It's
Oh
insane.
yeah. I made
It's
a whole I ran a CBD business and I made all of my product videos on Canva
wow,
with
I
just
believe it.
stock
Yeah.
B-roll footage. It
I
was
started
awesome.
all of my branding stuff I started on Canva, which I think that goes to show, like, you can literally not know a dang thing and you can make it work. Like, and
That's
people are so
amazing.
scared to make business work because they're scared of all of the creativity in it. But
Yeah.
there are resources like Canva and Show It and all of these amazing things that make it really easy as a business owner. It doesn't always have to be fancy. It never needs to be perfect. Just get it out for people to see, and the right people will show up.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites is done is better than perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah, well, just because like, dude, just it's gonna suck in the beginning, and you're gonna go through 50 million iterations. You just need to go. You know what I mean? And
Well, you watch
I
these people even on like Shark Tank or something, and they talk about their whole
right,
past and how they had a million protocols before, and like no one gets to where they are on their first try. It's impossible. That's like never playing
yeah,
a game of football in your life and showing up on a field and pretending you're going to win the Super Bowl. It doesn't work that way. It
yeah, you
doesn't.
can't do that. Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Like
That's awesome.
showing up is all you have to do, and slowly
Yeah,
you'll gain an audience, and people will
that's
want to
cool.
see. And
So you like Canva, you like Show It. What are some of the mindset tools that you use? You mentioned those.
yeah, well, I guess with like coaching clients and business clients, gratitude is a huge one. And that sounds
Oh
very
yeah.
cliche. I feel like it's a very oversaturated word right now, but
Well,
the act, okay.
whenever these things, this happens like, because I've been in a culture that just practices gratitude. Like you just try to be present. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it starts coming out and everybody hops on the bandwagon. And I think it gets oversaturated like you're talking about because the people who the people who've been doing it forever, like I have like 15 of these journals that I
Yeah.
just write in, you know what I mean? And it's part of my gratitude process.
Yeah.
Another one that gets like thrown around a lot now that just went mainstream for I don't know why, but like stoicism.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're, yeah, it's a big one. But like I remember being introduced to meditations by Marcus Aurelius when I was 8.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like it's never like I didn't jump on a bandwagon. There are
Right.
some things that because it's gotten bigger, people have written books, and so I've found new ways of applying it through the wave. But to your
Yeah.
point, it's like yeah, I don't know why I did. I think people just
I think
like
it's
you weren't
great. I
listening
wish,
to
yeah,
yeah,
I think it's awesome. I wish people would take it a little more seriously than just throwing it
right.
on an Instagram post, because it does make a huge difference. Like practicing
Yeah,
gratitude makes you realize, it
yeah,
makes you kind of realize how far you've also come. Because again, we don't all start at being the best, and it takes time to grow. And
right.
finding the gratitude in that progress, it shows how much you're capable of. So that's a big one.
Sure.
Also, I guess it's mindset, but also actually doing something. I tell every business owner that I work with to do something every day that you wouldn't be able to do at a 9 to 5 or at a job that
Oh,
if you're
cool.
whatever it is. So for me, it's a big thing is like I go for mini walks throughout the day, or I make sure I get a little laundry done, or something that I'm grateful that I get to work from home, but that can come with its own challenges and stuff. So just doing
Oh, sure.
something, even if it is meditating for 5 minutes at your desk, like you can't necessarily do that when your boss is sitting right next to you.
Right.
Stuff like that is a huge, it just kind of makes you realize, it goes back to the gratitude. It instills it in your subconscious mind that, I'm grateful for this, and it's going to help me keep pushing for the next big thing.
Yeah, cool. And I like that you mentioned do some I wrote down like do something off the beaten path, like something you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do, right? Like, yeah, go
Yeah.
for a walk or I don't know. That's really fun because it
Yeah.
just kind of it disrupts the pattern, right?
Yeah,
The
it does disrupt
monotony.
the pattern, and it
Yeah.
makes me, when my partner comes home, I can like sit with him and actually
Yeah.
enjoy the night, because I don't have to think about the million of chores that I have to do that I would have to if I was coming home at 5 p.m. Or
Right.
whatever it is. And not ever, I know a lot of entrepreneurs are still building their business while working a 9 to 5. So, it's
Yeah.
figuring out ways to sustain that, and
Yeah.
setting time for yourself, because I was in a position where I still had to work and I do a lot of things now, but
Yeah.
then you come home and you sit on your computer and you figure out ways to get the next client, and it's like you love it, but it's dreadful because you have no free time at all.
Yeah, and
So
it's you have no free time, and you're really trying to make it work, and
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
it
just and it's
can
your
be a
dream,
downer at
right?
first. Yeah, very draining at
Yeah.
times.
That's that's so awesome. Well, cool. Well, you've been more than generous with your time. Where are you at again? You're in Florida, right?
Orlando, yeah, Orlando,
Oh, that's
Florida.
right, Orlando.
Yes.
Man, that's fun. I told you just like off the cuff, like we went to Universal Studios.
Uh-huh.
Um, so fun. That was
So fun.
great. It's
Yeah,
so fun.
it's living here is fun. I mean, it's Orlando, but like
Yeah.
we grew up going to Disney and Universal and stuff, so it's fun and I enjoy it. But I'm also like,
You're
Disney.
like, yeah, right. And I'm the same. Like I live here in Utah,
Uh-huh.
and we're like some of the best skiing and snowboarding and like all the
Yeah,
mount. And I've never been to one of the resorts in my life. Like,
yeah. That's how. Yeah, I've never stayed at a Disney resort in my entire life.
yeah,
Ever.
they're like you're in Utah. You must love like Brighton or like where like the Olympics were held or something. I don't know where the Olympics were held, but I know that some of these
No,
ski
I get
resorts
what you're
were.
saying though.
But
That's
you know
so
what I'm
funny.
saying? Like, you live
Yeah,
right there, world's best snow. I'm like, I've never been there, bro. And I'm
that's so
probably not ever
funny
gonna
too
go.
because we were in Utah in August and we obviously not for snow and stuff. We did hiking and we were like, this is the best thing ever. Like I need to
Yeah.
get out of Orlando.
No, I tell you, we do love the hiking, and so I'll
Oh,
take my
so
wife and
beautiful.
my kids, and we'll go do some small hikes because my
Yeah.
my
Where are
baby's
you in
really.
Utah?
We're in Salt Lake, right in Salt Lake.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
you
right
saying.
in Salt Lake. So but we've done them all, and so that's the cool part. So
Yeah.
I do take advantage of some of it, like I'm sure you do in Orlando. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do understand the part where it's like, do you have like a magic key pass to Disney? No, dude.
Right. No. I
No.
find someone that I know that works there and see if they can get me in.
Yeah, if I really want to go that bad.
Right. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
We can go to
Okay.
Disney Springs, park for free, and get the Disney experience. It's crowds everywhere, so
Oh,
whatever.
that's cool. You said
Yeah.
Disney Springs?
Yeah, so it's
I
like
never heard
it's
of that.
downtown Disney basically. It's like
Oh, okay. Oh,
they
it's
just
like
have
a
like shops and stuff.
yeah. It's like what are the yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's like
Because they have
City. Do you remember City Walk at
that's
Universal?
right, City
It's
Walk,
like
yeah,
that, but for Disney.
but for Disney, that's right.
Yeah,
Because I think they have one at Disneyland in
they
California.
do. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, and we did that when we went to California because that's just a fun trip though. Because if you're in Salt Lake, it takes like maybe like 9 hours to get to Disneyland from here, but you
Okay.
go through like a lot of really cool places. So like we'll stop in Cedar City, that's where Brian Head is. We'll see
Okay.
Brian,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then St. George, which is beautiful.
that was one
Zion.
thing we were amazed with driving through Utah. It is not like Florida. Driving was
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. Drivers in Utah don't
And
believe in
it's
the
just
speed limit.
scary. We have flat, no hills, nothing. And
Oh yeah.
so our flight was delayed and we were supposed to drive from Salt Lake to Moab and it was so
Oh,
dark
that's
and
it.
you don't know if you're gonna fall off a cliff.
Right. Yeah.
Scary.
And Salt Lake to Moab, that's a gnarly trek in
Yeah,
general, even for
yeah.
you know.
We definitely
But yeah, so I mean, but you get to stop everywhere. I really like that trip because you get to stop everywhere. You can go to St. George, you can go
that's
to
so
then
cool.
we stop in Vegas,
Oh,
we stop in
fun.
Bristow and some of these places where you can see really cool stuff, and then
Yeah.
you end up on the ocean in Anaheim. So it's pretty
That's so
cool.
cool. That's
Yeah, it's a
awesome.
really cool trip. Yeah, my kids love it. But with all that being said, thank you so much for your time,
Yeah,
and
thank
tell
you so much
everybody
for
where they
having
can
me.
find you. Tell everybody where they can go to get your services.
Yeah, so for health and wellness things, all intuitive living and wellness stuff, it's on Instagram at essentially.maddie, Medi. And then my website for that is essentiallymaddie.com. And then for website design, branding, all of that fun stuff, it's intuitive and well design company.co. So that's for the website, or Intuitive and Well Design Co. on Instagram. But if you go to the Essentially Maddie, everything's linked on there. So
Okay,
Fine.
perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maddie. I appreciate you
Yes.
coming on.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.